I got a story to tell you guys. A 14 content creator made this tweet and it made a bunch of players pretty much upset and mad. Now, while I'd love to talk about the original tweet, I cannot actually share the original image that was in the tweet because I actually reached out to the artist and the organization behind it, and they told me that I'm not able to use it, sadly. So to respect their wishes, I kind of went ahead and made my own version of that kind of meme format with the same kind of messages and everything, just not using their art. So this is what we got. This meme depicts all the expansions of 14 and a person playing through all of it, progressively crying and getting more sad as they keep going through it. So starting with A Realm Reborn, they're a happy person, but then they end up a really depressed looking person crying. And Endwalker, well, at least in my case, you know, they're crying. That's supposed to be me drawing them as a mess. I should learn how to draw one day. Before we dive into the video, I want to quickly say that there will be spoilers for Heaven's Ward and Stormblood. So if you're not caught up on either of those expansions, don't watch. Other than that, enjoy. And you know, I have to say, it's a pretty accurate representation on how the general player base of 14 would act when playing through the game's main scenario from beginning to end. But the poster of this meme forgot a really big detail. That's right, they showed everything, including A Realm Reborn and all expansions, except for Stormblood! Woo! We can't forget Stormblood. That was an expansion, yes. It makes you think, you know, what kind of idiot would skip over Stormblood? Was it malicious intent? Did they really hate it? Or did they genuinely forget to put it in there? And the tweet itself did really well. In the middle of February, when we're in a basically content drought, it has about 18k likes and 16k retweets, excluding the quote retweets, of course, but that is pretty crazy for when the game is kind of in a down period for this meme to do really well. What kind of dumbass would make this tweet and anger so many players, you know, all 25 people who like Stormblood? By the way, throughout this video, I will be showing tweets from people that responded to this meme and other things. I will be blurring out some of their names, so do not harass some of these people. Don't do that. You're not a viewer of mine if you do that. And even then, it's just not cool. Why go out of your way to, like, you know, just randomly talk to somebody who doesn't even have the same opinion as you? Just let them live and do what they want. So it's really hard to ignore the fact that they left out Stormblood in this situation, so let's talk about it. Here's some tweets that I found. I love how it just skips Stormblood. Stormblood haters are so weird. So it makes you think, you know, who made this tweet? Was it Zepla? Was it Asmin? Xenosis? It could be any of these people, but who was it? Wait a second. It was none of those people. It was some other schmuck. It was actually me. It was actually me. I was the idiot. I was the person who made this meme. So for all the people who actually already follow me on Twitter, you know I make a bunch of memes on there for 14. And if you haven't followed me on Twitter, go follow me on Twitter. It's the best way to interact with me. If you know, comment on my posts enough, I actually kind of tend to recognize who is who. So follow me on Twitter and interact with me. So there you go. Follow me now. Continuing with the video though, people got actually mad at me for making this meme because there was nearly 500 quote retweets, and I can't see them all now, but there's a lot of people who made a lot of stuff saying, wow, this guy made this meme, I can't believe it. Why are people hating on Stormblood so much? Saying things like, oh wow, he left out Stormblood. Wow, more Stormblood slander. Stormblood shouldn't be so shunned. It did a lot to expand the scope of the world, the Empire, introduce Emmet, Xenos, and set up Shadowbringers, while also having elements that directly correlate with Endwalker. Not to mention some of the most funnest trials and raids too. Is that a word, funnest? I don't know. Why am I being picky? It's the internet. Why is it hip to talk bad about Stormblood? That was a really intense part of the story where it got really dark for the first time. I'm not going to comment on that further. It was emotionally gripping and introduced some of the most memorable characters and was visually stunning. I kind of agree with this tweet a little bit. I will say though, however, saying that this is where the first time the story got really dark, I don't really agree with that. Alright, I actually love Stormblood. I don't hate it in any way. I think all the expansions are great, and I think a lot of people will say the same thing. All expansions are great. It just so happens that some of them shine better than others. Just some people would consider Stormblood to be that awkward middle child in the family that, you know, people don't really want to talk about. We still love them, maybe, but we just, you know, we don't really talk about them as much. In fact, I've made a few tweets about Stormblood, you know, poking fun at it, and then saying, you know, going on the record saying, I actually love Stormblood, despite me poking fun at it. Let's break a few things down. So when it comes to the meme that I made, I just want to say that I was mostly referring to the MSQ. So people who were saying things about, like, wow, why are we talking bad about Stormblood? I don't know why you're bringing that up. It was mostly about the MSQ. For me, personally, When it comes to the other expansions, I'd probably shed at least 1 tear. Stormblood, I don't really recall any moment where I was like, damn, this got me. But I still enjoyed it as a whole regardless. A lot of people weren't a big fan of the MSQ of Stormblood and how it focused on, you know, politics and war and themes and all that. People really preferred the fantasy side of 14, you know, dragons and fantasy. I don't know what else describes fantasy, honestly. But I personally enjoyed war story and politics. I don't know, I'm kind of like a history buff, so it kind of really, I enjoyed that part of it. However, people would also argue that there were issues in pacing, jumping from one area to another. A lot of people praised the Doma side of the story to be the best part because it was also written by Ichikawa, I believe, so that explains it. But everything else, like in the Gear Albania area, was just very mid, and people didn't enjoy that at all. So here's my defense for everything in Stormblood's MSQ pacing and all the other issues. I have no defense. I just enjoyed it. I just enjoyed it. That's all I got. I'm sorry. I don't know. It's just, I liked it. It's weird. I can't really explain why I love Stormblood regardless of all those things. I played through it and I was like, you know what? It was fine. Maybe if I sat down with people and they explained to me why they didn't enjoy it, I could probably actually have my mind enlightened a bit. But as far as I know, the story was enjoyable. I kind of liked it. In fact, this is the part that's going to make a lot of people mad. I actually place Stormblood a bit higher, just a little bit above Heavensward. Just a little bit. Both are really honestly tied for me for being good. I like them both, but if I had to say, I think I just like Stormblood. I'm sorry, I couldn't be seduced by dragons in Estinian. They couldn't do it for me. I just like Stormblood more than Heavensward. And no, not just because it gave us the most badass females in all of Final Fantasy histories, which, by the way, I do love my bad females. This expansion released so many great people. We had some bad bitches. We had, like, freaking Lise, Fordola, Gosetsu, Yugiri.
He comes.
Oh, don't worry. I already have, girl. I already have. And of course, the biggest and baddest bitch of them all, Yotsuyu. I love her. She had such a tragic backstory, and she was just really wild and crazy. And when we got the post-Stormblood Yotsuyu, I just really liked her then because she was just really adorable and cute. I just love all of Yotsuyu.
Come.
I don't know if I can, Yugiri. My refraction period isn't that great. And the story also introduced us to Xenos, which either you love him or you just straight up hate Xenos. But I kind of like him. First time I saw him, I thought he was pretty beautiful, but then I kind of didn't like him. But then Endwalker kind of restored my love for him, so not a bad character, I would say.
Farewell, my first friend.
And outside of the Stormblood story, we have some of our fan-favorite jobs out there, such as Samurai and Red Mage, which are still highly popular today, especially Red Mage. When it comes to content, however, I wasn't there when Stormblood was the current day content. You know, there was a lot of different job changes, a lot of different gameplay elements that were introduced at the time that, you know, if you were playing before, you would see a lot of great things, but to me, it's just, you know, I came in during Shadowbringers. So instead, I decided to bring in somebody who was actually at the glory days of Stormblood, and they want to actually talk about how great the content of Stormblood really was. So, Momo, take it away.
Stormblood is an interesting expansion as its predecessor, Heavensward, was almost a completely different game in both ideology and playstyle, with its controversial and punishing job design and higher difficulty savage encounters. For the best, this changed in Stormblood, where savage encounters started to become more modernized and more of an intermediate difficulty instead, and job design started to shift what we have today. That's not to say that job design in Stormblood was necessarily bad, as for me, it was my favorite time in the game's history when it came to battle content. The job design was probably at its highest point. It wasn't as punishing as Heavensward, but it also wasn't as forgiving as today. There was a nice balance of micro-optimization and the skill ceiling and skill floor not being too close together. I could go on and on about what each job had. Warriors had the Beast Gauge, Dragoons had Blood of the Dragon, Bars had mana management, but I don't want this to be like 30 minutes long. As for what my favorite job from Stormblood was, it had to be probably Scholar. Healing in general in Stormblood was much more punishing to you. It was a time where you really couldn't just press whatever you wanted and expect to spam your damage spells. For the most part, it required your whole team to work together to reduce the amount of healing spells and abilities you had to use. This on top of Scholar's just overall toolkit with having to manage your dots, plan your Aetherful heals accordingly, and being able to use your fairy mid GCD made it one of my favorite jobs in the game's history. With all of this job talk, it's almost like we're forgetting the other side of the same coin, the battle content. Stormblood was the first expansion where they truly modernized the Savage content. Creator existed and it was technically the first true modernized Savage raid tier, but Stormblood is the expansion where it was fully utilized. This was okay because we are to get a new set of difficulty fights that would change the game's history forever. Ultimates. Not only are these fights some of the longest and hardest in the entire game, but these fights would also be the catalyst to push the skill level of players to new heights. Stormblood also had Yotsuyu as a character, and while it's not battle content, bottoms still had to battle each other to come out on top for who was truly worth.
Pause! Yotsuyu's my girl. Get off. Stop, Momo.
But yeah, that was pretty much Stormblood in a nutshell. I didn't really go over everything. Like, I didn't go over Eureka. I didn't go over, like, the BA and, like, the Ozma fight. I think I did a pretty good job keeping it nice and concise, though. So, yo, thank you, Kougaon, for having me on. Really appreciate it, man. Don't know what else to say here, but, yeah. Yeah.
I also want to quickly say I did have another person who was supposed to show up and, you know, talk about Stormblood some more because they loved it as well, but they never followed up on me, so Night Sky Prince, I'll remember this one. So, my final call to action for everyone watching up to this point. Did you yourself enjoy Stormblood? Yes or no? Seeing some of the comments will help me out with the future Stormblood video that I actually want to talk about in-depthly about it. So, if you guys enjoyed it, please let me know. I'm sure I'll see a lot of comments of people just saying, no, it was bad. So, if you love it a lot, defend it here right now. Anyways, guys, this is Miko. Have a good one. Please follow me on Twitter, on Twitch for live streams, and I will see you guys in the next video. So, have a good one.